Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Princess Anne make a tragic move to end Camilla's demand for her son's royal title. According to an insider source, Princess Anne claimed that in the fight for royal roles she stands up to Queen Camilla's power. In the complicated and often chaotic world of the British monarchy, where tradition is both a foundation and a guide, a subtle but important power struggle has developed between the Princess Royal's strong traditionalism and Queen Camilla's progressive goals. A seemingly minor violation of protocol at a public ceremony has turned into a strategic battle for control, ending in a spectacular event that has changed the House of Windsor's internal power structure. The main topic of the argument is about the monarchy's future, who decides who represents it and who may hold its prominent position. Princess Anne puts the institution's integrity first. This is based on hundreds of years of tradition and strong dedication. It appears that one of Queen Camilla's main goals, even if she doesn't say it out loud, is to leave a legacy for her family. This fight, which took place behind the palace's velvet curtains, has revealed deep rifts within the crown. Insiders say that the Princess Royal's planned and strategic engagement narrowly averted a major catastrophe. The soft light from the stained glass windows of Westminster Abbey cast strange patterns on the stone floor where the British royal family met. The event was a sad tribute to the country's military heroes, full of respect and tradition. The large nave was filled with a somber quiet, broken only by the deep, resonating sounds of the organ and the low murmurs of prayers from the honored guests. The royal family, sitting in the first row, was like a living picture of continuity and memory, showing how the country should honor those who had served. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, entered with the calm grace that has always been a part of her public life. She was tall and straight, and she wore a simple black wool coat. Her hair was groomed well and was silver, and her face showed the marks of time and duty. She had been going to these kinds of occasions for decades, and her presence was a constant and calming component of royal life. It wasn't just a matter of formality that she sat in the first row. It was a monument to a lifetime of hard work, a spot earned by being one of the most hard-working members of the family. But as Anne got close to where she always went, she stopped. A little but evident change in the seating arrangement made her shudder within, almost like it was happening without her noticing. The seat with the royal emblem, a silver shield with a lion and crown, was occupied. This seat is usually designated for the Queen at these events. There was Tom Parker Bowles, Queen Camilla's son from her first marriage. He smiled kindly as if he had done it before. His tight black suit matched the royal ceremonial clothes, yet his appearance was rather unusual. Tom is a well-known food critic and author, but he doesn't come from an aristocratic family. He now strangely had a prominent role in a well-known royal ceremony. Anne's gaze moved across the row, showing the full breadth of the change. She had been given a lower pew, which is where lesser family members or local politicians usually sit. The demotion was planned. It was a planned and calculated move. For the first time in her long public career, she watched herself being eliminated on purpose, not by coincidence. People who saw Camilla standing next to King Charles III look at her son and said she did it with calm confidence. It was a clear sign, an attempt to test the boundaries, to get Tom used to being in the inner circle, and maybe even to get him ready for a more formal, semi-official role in the future. The affront was significant, not just a personal affront to the king's sister, but a direct threat to the foundational integrity of the monarchy. Nevertheless, years of royal training had instilled in Anne a formidable self-discipline. Preserving her flawless composure, she assumed her new seat without any visible response. Her countenance maintained an air of serene majesty, with her movements calculated and appropriate. However, behind the surface, a suppressed rage boiled. She contemplated if the king was aware of this agreement, or whether it was solely orchestrated by Camilla. From her reduced perspective, Anne saw Tom conversing with the prominent officials and nobles positioned close. His grin seemed certain, although a little tension lingered at its periphery, like an actor still unsure of his lines in a production considerably more magnificent than any he had before encountered. An unsettling, sharp irony permeated her thoughts. The offspring of the intruder, she reflected with icy accuracy, shall never inscribe his name in the annals of this estate. The television cameras transmitting the event nationwide seemed to adhere to an independent script. Their optics scanned the audience, pausing on the scene composed of King Charles, Queen Camilla, and her son Tom. The picture shown on the enormous screens outside the Abbey and subsequently in the nightly news depicted a peaceful, contemporary family. The prominent publications, including The Times and The Guardian, reflected this story. Headlines announced Royal Family United at Veterans Memorial and a contemporary portrait of unity. Princess Anne's attendance was hardly acknowledged, a mere footnote in a narrative being redefined before her. Upon the ceremony's conclusion and the organ's last reverberations dissipating into the vaulted rafters, the ambiance became more buoyant. Guests socialized in the adjacent halls where champagne was given, and courteous laughing permeated the atmosphere. At that moment, Camilla approached Anne, her refined grin radiating under the chandeliers, a glass of champagne held gracefully in her hand. She leaned closer and spoke in a voice that was gentle but unmistakably audible. "You should rest, Anne. Wouldn't you agree that the young should lead claiming concern?" The statement was a blatant and aggressive provocation. Anne instantly recognized the facade. She stared at Camilla with unwavering attention and answered in a calm, precise tone that cut through the hubbub. "The royal family's new generation is born within the palace without an invitation." Camilla's smile faded briefly. Behind her flawless makeup, her eyes showed raw wrath. The brittle crystal creaked as her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass, turning her knuckles pallid. Anne's comments penetrated the long-held belief that she was and always will be an outsider. She felt humiliated and furious. Rarely had anybody challenged her so frankly and accurately. Anne's words implied that "I won't let you or your baby go." Camilla tried to smile again, but it was fake. One idea persisted: wait. Best is yet to come. She looked aside, trying to calm herself, her feet swaying beneath the interaction's weight. A new tension emerged as the party ended with applauding and attendees left into the afternoon light. Princess Anne left Westminster Abbey, standing tall, the autumn wind a welcome comfort. She immediately knew this wasn't the end. The opening attack in a secret war for monarchy essence. After the morning service, Clarence House, where Queen Camilla normally did her business cautiously, was silent. She smiled publicly from behind her polished wood desk, but her penetrating gaze showed her deep dissatisfaction with Anne's defiance. The Princess Royal's words haunted her, reminding her of her impairment. Camilla knew she had to act quickly and decisively to gain a permanent and valued place for her son Tom in the royal realm. Princess Anne, the symbol of tradition and duty, needed to be disabled. She had contacted Tom earlier that day to discuss the ceremony's effects. He relaxed in a leather chair by the window, but his eyes were on his mother. A neighboring pendulum clock ticked like a metronome of repressed dread, creating an aura of unspoken anxiety. Camilla replied calmly, "You now recognize that Anne will not be easily perturbed. We need stronger measures to reduce her impact. I think her visibility should decrease." Tom inclined his head, speaking forcefully, but nervously. "I'm ready, Mother. However, we must proceed carefully. Anne doesn't retreat quietly." Camilla smiled knowingly, her eyes shining. This is why we cannot delay. Camilla phoned Edward, her new communications director, after Tom left. The talented, determined mid-40s man was personally recruited from a top London public relations business known for its bold and effective techniques. He entered her study with an iPad, seeming committed. Camilla gave clear instructions. Edward would quietly but persistently reduce Princess Anne's public exposure. Tom and Camilla's family became symbols of a modern, enlightened monarchy. She planned the distribution of anonymous tales to positive journalists, citing irregularities and lack of transparency in Anne's huge charity organizations. Edward also had to create plausible reasons to cancel or postpone Anne's public appearances, allowing other family members to take her place. Edward meticulously noted each order, assuring her that the plan would be performed carefully. He promised to publish the initial items within 48 hours and change deadlines for strategic effect. Clarence House, once secluded, became the focus of a secret PR struggle. Princess Anne's Kensington Palace office was also disturbed. She was at her usual desk where she had spent hours on royal duties. The warm amber warmth from the desk lamp illuminated her wrinkled face, each line a tribute to tenacity that did not blur her eyes. She saw heaps of well-organized files labeled with her favorite causes: veterans' aid, children's education, and wildlife conservation. Anne's longtime helper, Margaret, came with a worried expression. She grabbed the latest Times. "Your Highness," she murmured stiffly, "there is an article you must examine." She placed the newspaper on the desk. Anne was deeply affected by the headline, "Princess Anne's Charity Funds Opaque Expenditures or Public Squander." The piece, quoting anonymous palace insiders, alleged that several of her groups misallocated monies, citing enormous travel expenses and opaque invoices. Every phrase was a well-crafted insinuation meant to create public doubt. Anne's fingertips blanched as they pierced the newspaper. She exploded with rage. She had worked hard to build public trust and crown dignity, and these institutions were the result. Camilla's boldness to smear them was unacceptable. The attack targeted many publications. Similar stories appeared in The Sun, The Guardian, and BBC News Online simultaneously. She was implicitly portrayed as antiquated and unconnected by headlines like "Princess Anne: The Secrets Behind the Charity Campaigns" that affected the conversation about transparency. The campaign transcended mere headlines. Scheduled events started to disappear from her calendar. An event at the Victoria and Albert Museum, where she was scheduled to be the guest of honor, has been indefinitely postponed due to vague technical issues. A significant fundraising event for underprivileged children was unexpectedly canceled. When Anne's office conducted inquiries, they received evasive and curiously courteous responses. Her hunch solidified into conviction upon seeing staff changes inside the palace's primary communications office. During a recent internal briefing, she saw new individuals, youthful, polished public relations operatives, recruited from businesses with established connections to Camilla's network. A reliable, long-tenured palace staff member, seeing her in a hallway, whispered, "They report directly to the office of the Queen Consort, Your Highness." The established leadership is being marginalized. The confirmation was unsurprising. It just corroborated her prior knowledge. The evidence was irrefutable: slanderous pieces, terminated commitments, and a reorganized communications staff all indicated a single mastermind. At this juncture, Anne had just intuition and fragmented data, lacking the definitive proof necessary for a determined counteraction. In public, she exhibited an unwavering front, her small, restrained grin masking the inner turmoil. However, a resolute determination emerged privately. She would not let Camilla undermine her life's work with superficial tabloid tactics. She commenced a detailed documentation of each occurrence, spoke with steadfast supporters within the royal staff, and orchestrated a more rigorous examination of the palace's internal activities. She has initiated the first act of aggression and contemplated seeing the autumnal light diminish outside her window. However, she will lament the day she confronted me. Night enveloped London, shrouding the city in a delicate veil of rain. Raindrops gently fell down onto the cobblestone streets, which glistened under the subdued illumination of the street lamps, creating indistinct halos reminiscent of vigilant memories. Within her study, Princess Anne's phone discreetly vibrated on her desk. The communication was succinct, but conveyed significant importance. Assemble at Highgrove this evening. Significant. It originated from Prince William. Without hesitating, Anne donned a heavy wool coat and exited the castle. The vintage Land Rover she preferred began with a subdued rumble, its headlights piercing the fog as she navigated into the serene countryside en route to Gloucestershire. Highgrove, the private estate of King Charles, is situated within expansive grounds, surrounded by old trees whose interwoven branches provide a natural barrier from the external environment. Bathed in faint silver moonlight, the estate seemed tranquil, although its tranquility masked the seriousness of the impending encounter. William awaited in the study, a chamber heated by the consistent crackling of a fire. The flames illuminated his face with varying shades of crimson and gold, highlighting his exhaustion and the steadfast composure of a man weighed down by responsibility. Upon Anne's entrance, he welcomed her with a brief but genuine hug, conveying an implicit sense of family trust. He promptly looked at the door to confirm they're alone, then securely closed it and turned the key in the robust wood lock. The metallic click resonated softly in the stillness. "Anne, I cannot permit this to continue," he said, his voice subdued almost above a whisper. He signaled for her to take a seat on an upholstered chair next to the fire. The warmth highlighted her serene face, while the subtle aroma of burning wood blended with the musty fragrance of antiquated books that adorned the walls, tomes documenting the history and tribulations of their ancestry. William extracted a little black USB stick from his coat pocket. He plugged it into a laptop on the antique desk, a relic from the era of Queen Victoria that seemed both timeless and delicate. "This is an audio recording of a dialogue between Camilla and Tom," he said softly. He struck the piano, and moments later, sounds emanated from the speakers with remarkable clarity. Camilla's voice surfaced frigid and measured, delivering directives with exacting precision. "We must implement more stringent measures to curtail her influence, reduce her media exposure, eliminate Anne's presence from official broadcasts. We need to elevate Tom as the emblem of the new generation, contemporary, relevant, and progressive." Anne remained utterly silent, her demeanor unwavering and her respiration consistent. However, under the desk, her fists clenched until her knuckles blanched, a tempest of rage restrained inside a front of steely serenity. William acquired the recording from Harold, a long-serving palace staff member and loyal servant to the royal family since the era of Queen Elizabeth II. Committed to the crown's integrity, Harold inadvertently overheard the conversation between Camilla and Tom in a secluded corridor of Clarence House. Alarmed by their plot, he surreptitiously filmed the dialogue on his phone. Conscious that exposure might jeopardize his employment, he sent the tape to William over a secure channel, requesting just that his name be kept confidential. Upon the conclusion of the recording, William closed the laptop and gazed directly into Anne's eyes. "I am unable to publicly confront her," he said, his tone imbued with truth. "However, I shall not abandon you in this endeavor." He recognized the limitations of his position as the heir apparent. He was expected to stay without reproach, safeguarding the monarchy's stability at all costs. Nevertheless, Familial ties and obligation necessitated his action. Supporting Anne clandestinely was his chosen course, a subtle insurrection cloaked in fidelity. Anne put a steady, comforting hand on William's shoulder, a gesture that communicated the power of their common objective. "Thank you," she said, her voice unwavering as hardened steel. "I refuse to allow this family to be supplanted by a promotional initiative." She inserted the USB disk into her coat pocket. She was already strategizing her further actions, replicating the file, securing it, and readying it to serve as both a defense and an offensive tool. It was the undeniable evidence she needed a tool she could use at the opportune time to undermine Camilla's growing influence. As Anne navigated the rain-soaked highways back to London, the sense of solitude that had burdened her for days started to dissipate, replaced by a determined fortitude. The struggle for dominance would continue, but this time she would adopt an offensive strategy. In the following days, after her secret rendezvous with William, Princess Anne functioned with the acuity of an experienced military strategist. Each action was intentional, every feeling concealed under a facade of composed restraint. Her aim was unequivocal: to target the essence of Camilla's influence, not via public allegations, but inside the secret, revered chambers where the monarchy's real authority lies. She convened an unprecedented meeting of the Royal Council at Buckingham Palace under the guise of addressing an urgent matter concerning the royal image and budget. The summons was succinct and professional, sent via secure channels to the senior members, guaranteeing Camilla's obligatory appearance. The agenda was intentionally kept confidential to prevent any preemptive actions. In gloom, the council met. Dense clouds pushed across castle windows, turning the hall gloomy. A large, polished table, wrapped in lush green velvet, was in the stark, symmetrical meeting hall, lit by lighting. The council was made up of experienced royals, elite advisors, and aristocrats dedicated to crown dignity. William stood with poise in the middle. Camilla, sitting to the right of the table's head, showed confidence in her black tailored dress and impeccable smile, despite her eyes showing worry. Anne appeared last, commanding, yet discreet. She held a basic black leather suitcase. She stood directly opposite Camilla and locked eyes for a time. Without formality, Anne's voice rang clear and steady in the peaceful setting. "I wish to commence with a recording," she added. "It affects our monarchy's integrity and image. I insist all attendees hear it." She turned on a little device in the center of the table. A distinct, condemnatory tone broke the silence. Camilla's voice filled the room as she instructed her communications head. Dismissing ambition and deception, the words stuck. The room became silent once the recording ended. Camilla was the center of attention. Anne stared at her intensely, her tone cold and direct. "Should this recording escape the palace," she replied quietly, "your reputation would be irreparably tarnished. However, I have not shared it. You may withdraw before it's irreversible." Council members moved awkwardly, their faces showing amazement and consideration. No one defended Camilla. Evidence was conclusive. Camilla smiled hesitantly, her hands quivering under the gloss. She had endured rumors and insults for years, but being addressed openly before the Royal Council was unmatched humiliation. Fear and anger battled within her. William finally broke the silence. He spoke deliberately yet assertively. He stated, "The royal image is being utilized for personal purposes, reflecting the future monarch's weight. This cannot continue." The folder in front of him included a discreetly made document with Anne's consent. To preserve the integrity of the monarchy, he said, "I advocate for an immediate reorganization of the Royal Communications Department. Instead of the Queen, it will report to a new Royal Communications Oversight Committee. I, the Princess Royal, and an unbiased external advisor shall make up this committee." His voice became firmer as he persevered. Thus, only direct royal descendants may represent the monarchy at national rituals or occupy places of honor. This council must regularly review charity and media funding. Before approval, 2 committees must sign all media contracts. Plan copies were passed around the table. Camilla's past actions were challenged in every syllable. Camilla quickly rose her voice, trembling with anger. "This degrades Queen Consortship. These activities threaten our cohesiveness." Anne responded quickly and sharply. "Our sole goal is transparency, Your Majesty. If nothing is hidden, there is nothing to fear." The statement hung like a weapon. Council members approved the measures separately. A polite but powerful old duke replied, "The crown must remain unassailable. Protecting it from human intervention is essential." Momentum was unchangeable. The matter was voted on after 30 minutes of suspense. Clearly, most endorsed William's ideas. Camilla stayed motionless throughout the verdict. Her clever manipulation era's first failure occurred then. In the weeks that followed, Clarence House remained beautiful, but Queen Camilla's influence had waned. Formerly her strongest asset, the Royal Communications Department, is now under the Monitoring Committee. The well-planned Tom Parker Bowles promotion was abruptly ended. She sensed politeness but distance during royal feasts and festivities. At a quiet Windsor meeting, she cleverly shifted the conversation away from her endeavor to brainstorm new ideas for her child. She had lost her influence. Queen Consort's crown remained, but it no longer carried her carefully cultivated power. In comparison, Tom Parker Bowles's fall was rapid and precise. Invitations ended. His name was missing from event listings. He faded from public view after his brief climb to royal fame. Princess Anne, however, re-emerged with the subtle power of a conqueror who reclaimed her realm. She entered the Grand Hall with authority during the Windsor National Museum's opening. In a blue coat with the Royal Cavalry's symbol, Elizabeth sat at William's left, the place she had lost in Westminster Abbey. The polite clapping showed respect and appreciation. She was suddenly the only focus of the cameras. Following days' headlines were clear. Princess Anne excels at Windsor inauguration, read one. A resolute emblem of obligation. The Princess Royal's perpetual elegance remarked another. Camilla and Tom could see their goals derailed from afar, but Anne did not look back. She restored her status and declared that she will always be the monarchy's pillar. Her victory was institutional preservation, a subtle but forceful statement that duty would always trump ambition in the House of Windsor. She regained and strengthened her status and the foundations of the monarchy to which she had devoted her whole life. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.